Welcome, everyone. Happy holidays. If you celebrate Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, whatever holiday that you choose to celebrate this festive time of year, welcome. And thank you for joining us live tonight for a very special Athearn Extra. This is our holiday special. And let's do a quick round of shout outs while I'm thinking of it. I see Randall and Dave Reynolds, Union Pacific 1943. Let's see, Zach, Train Jack 16, DG Model Works is in the house. Sid is here. Mark, Abel, Cody, Alco, Steam, and Taylor is here. So thank you for joining us. So glad that you could be here with us tonight on this special live stream. Now, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Athearn Genesis Dash 9s that are available for pre-order until Friday the 29th, as well as the Athearn GP7s. But we're not going to show you the models tonight. I'm going to have a special host help me with that. We've got some really cool prototype pictures to kind of whet your appetite to pick up one of these models. And then later in the show, we're going to do what you probably all came for. We're going to show off the top selected holiday pictures that were submitted to us over the last week. And then stay tuned because at the end, we're going to unveil a winner. And of course, the winner gets this really cool 50-foot boxcar. So stay tuned for that. Before we get started, let's do another round of shout outs. And I see Anthony, Delta, Ethan, George, Ron, Shannon, and Abel is here, and Jonathan. So we've got a pretty good full house here. So let's go ahead and get started with this very special Athearn Extra and where you get to start. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Now, I don't know about you guys. If you are a fan of Model Railroad News or HO Collector, this is for a lot of us really special time of year for model railroaders because maybe like myself, you've got into this hobby because of a Christmas gift. You can see behind me my original HO scale Athearn, or no, sorry, AHM GP18 for Seaboard Coastline. I got that back in 1976. And that got me started on this path, which also led into a wonderful career. So perhaps many of you out there also started the same way. And somebody that is really keen on giving us stories about model trains and the holidays is the editor of Model Railroad News, as well as HO Collector. And that is my special guest tonight, Tony Cook. Good evening,
Hey,
Tony.
how you doing, Jim?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Busy. Yeah, busy. And
You've
also
been
Diesel Era. I'm working on Diesel Era's first quarter of 2024 edition as we're going into the holidays. So yeah, and I can't believe Christmas is days away.
doesn't seem like
I
it,
don't
does
know
it?
how that happened. How's your weather been over in Central Illinois? I'm up in Kansas City and I was almost 60 today. That it's like it just doesn't
Yeah.
feel, yeah. We've had a few.
Doesn't feel like December. No, I mean, growing up as a kid, I always remember we had a pretty good layer of snow on the ground, and yeah, it was close to about 55, I think, here today, and I think they're saying rain for tomorrow. So it doesn't
Uh,
really,
yeah, that's kind of it's been in our forecast all week, and we've had sun until today. So yeah, yeah.
with all of the coverage that you've done in HO Collector, you've done some special editions in the past of the connection of model trains and the holidays. Now, one question I have for you is you've got to have your own personal story with the connection of those two subjects.
You mentioned your AHM Jeep 18 in 76. Um, I don't remember it well. I was 2 years old. It would have been 1968, but I got an F unit train set HO and my dad had painted the F unit into Gulfmobile in Ohio. I assume it was Santa Fe or something before that. And that was my first train set. And I've seen pictures of myself with dad and he did like a little 4x6 with the 36-inch loop of track sort of thing, but I don't remember it really well. The stuff I remember was more later, like in the 70s,
Okay.
getting various things at Christmas. But we were year round rail fans and model railroaders, so the trains never stopped rolling, whether they were miniature or the real deal. So yeah, Christmas was fun, but trains were coming all the time.
It's really neat because a lot of shows that I'm sure you've heard the same thing. I'll go to a show and say, I got into model railroading because of insert date here and Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday here, and I got this as a gift. And it started this journey that I'm still on. And I can say honestly, I think for both of us, that would be true. And I would venture to say a lot of our folks that are watching this, that's how they got started as well.
Absolutely. Last evening I was on with John Abaticola on his TSG Multimedia, the Talking Trains Live, and you can find that on YouTube. I think he has this show up there. And that was the whole thing is he had started talking about different train sets on a show we had done a month or two before. And people were posting on Facebook of, oh, I had this set, or when did this set come out? Here's a picture of me, and I'm not sure what this was. And so I did a show last night with them, and it's always fun to talk. That's one of the things I find fascinating of old literature, like the old catalogs, because they're
Mm.
all pretty geared to train sets and showing that kind of stuff. So it's fun stuff.
And of course, who can not forget the great Gene Shepard classic of A Christmas Story? And even though the story centers around a BB gun, I always remember that first few scenes where the kids are pressed up against the glass and they're seeing all those cool trains running around. I mean,
Yeah,
brings you back. It really does.
it does. It really does. Yeah.
Now, another question I have for you is, with you and Bandit, do you do anything under the Christmas tree? Do you have a train under the tree?
I don't even have a Christmas tree set up here in Kansas City because I was heading to Texas and we usually have a tree down there, but I honestly don't, which is yeah, seems crazy, but no. Yeah, again, I have
Wow.
trains set up year round, so nope, nope.
Well, you know our friend Ken Jr. at Train World. He bailed me out,
Oh
and
yeah?
let's see if we can get a picture of what I did this year. See if it's going to go up there. It's trying. Well, I guess it's not going to do it. Well, anyways, long story short, I went ahead and picked up an American Flyer set from
Ah,
Train World, and yeah, it's not going to show. That's not it. But anyways, I picked up an American Flyer set from Ken and went ahead and put it together. It's under the tree, and everybody is loving it. And everybody will come in and they'll say, I had a train set when I was younger, or I still model, and that's why. Dad or mom or grandpa or grandma got me this train set. So it's always fun this festive time of year to have some fun with our models.
so American Flyer, a little 164th action there. Wow, S scale. How about that?
Yeah, don't tell Mr. Ostertag. He he
I'm
might
I'm
get
sure he
excited.
he probably already has had the disturbance felt that else has gotten a new S scale set.
Probably did. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I'm already eyeing the American Flyer Wabash Jeep 7 that's out. So
Nice, nice. There's some fun
it could
stuff.
be a dangerous road, but I promise to our fans, HO and N scale will always be my
Mhm.
scales. But before we get the next segment here, I'm looking at the comments and here's some great comments about what we're talking about here tonight. Train Jack post. My dad had his own model trains, and we would run them. That's how I got into model trains. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Um, Willie is posting. My first train was a Lionel before HO scale. I think that's a pretty
yeah, that's very common.
common
Yeah.
common segue. Let's see what else we've got from here. A lot of guys talking that they pretty much get into trains because of a gift during the holidays and such, and so it's good to hear. So Tony, tell me, for those who may not know that you're the editor of Diesel Era and Model Railroad News and HO Collector, give us a little bit of background on the publications and all that you do for White River.
Well, I've been with White River now since 2012, which it doesn't seem like it's been now more than a decade, but it has. And I've been the editor of Model Railroad News and do HO Collector, which has been a quarterly that we're transitioning. It's going to be a bigger issue for 2024. It'll be a single annual of like 100 and some pages. And then Diesel Era is a publication that White River picked up a handful of years ago. And I've been doing it on a quarterly basis for a few years. And then I contribute Collector Consist quarterly to Railroad Model Craftsman. I think the one we just did, Athearn steam locomotives of the early 60s, I think was a couple months ago in Craftsman, and had lots of emails and feedback from people talking about those three early 60s, steam locomotives in HO. And I think I do cabooses. I do the wide vision cabooses. Remember, we did a show on that recently, how they were,
Right.
the model is 50 years old, the Athearn. And I think that's in the December Railroad Model Craftsman. But it's fun stuff. Yeah, it's, again, like you, it's a hobby, and it's also my employment too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess, probably for you when you were either rail fanning with your dad in Illinois or playing with your models, did you ever think it would end up as being a career?
No, and it's funny, I've said that before because in fact, I just did recently there was a freight car that one of the manufacturers used one of my dad's slides. And I said, wow, would you have ever thought when you shot that slide, because it was like 1968 or 69 was the date on it, that somebody would make a model using that picture? And he's like, yeah, that's would have boggled my mind to have known that. So, yeah.
Well, you and I have been talking about the announcements for this month, and believe it or not, like Christmas, the pre-order dates soon to come up. It's the Friday the 29th, so a little over a week, but not much. And we announced the Dash Nines, and we also announced another run of GP7s. And you were kind enough to send us some really cool prototype pictures, many of the ones that we're going to offer in this release. And in fact, I think I've got the pictures here. I'm going to go ahead and get that up there so we can admire this awesome photography that
And
you
these,
shared
yes,
with us.
this is from Kevin Udaly, who is one of the owners of White River Productions. He and his wife Nadine own the White River, and he's got a big slide collection and is always looking for slide collections and adding to his roster of pictures. And so that's where these are sourced from.
Now, this picture is dated March 21st, 1998, and it says BNSF 960, obviously a Dash 9, and the Heritage 1.
Yeah.
Now, you and I don't consider this to be an old paint scheme or an old locomotive because we
But
remember this.
but it really kind of is in both cases. Yeah, and look
It
at all
really,
the
really is.
behind it and behind it and on the opposite track there are War Bonnet Santa Fe equipment, which again, that's rare to see any of that left around. So yeah, it's been a
It
while.
was, yeah, it's been a while. And personally, I always liked the Heritage 1. I mean, my personal opinion was I did like the Circle Cross
Hmm.
logo and the heritage colors. I mean, it just looks so nice. It was just a nice, clean look.
I
Of
agree.
course, they
Yeah.
didn't stay
Yeah.
with this, but
Mm.
now this is a beautiful shot. This is also all of the pictures that I'm sharing with you tonight came from Tony, and they're part of the White River Publications collection. But this was originally from David Bear, and man, look at this has got to be brand new here.
Absolutely. And look at even the air horns are red, which that's surprising. And the tread walk on those, that always surprises me because again, we don't have that perspective from the ground watching them go by. And it almost is like, oh, who photoshopped that? That can't be right. And yeah. And you see I think that's what a skid plate or something behind the cab to like walk. If you're on the roof there, you see that little line
Oh yeah, the
splitting. Yeah.
anti-slip.
That
Yeah.
again, you
I
don't.
remember our first run of Dash Nines, we actually did this paint scheme and they did have the red,
Hmm.
um, just like you see here. We had a lot of people say that we did that wrong. And I dug through my collection of old Kodachrome And I'm like, no, this did exist. So yes, Virginia, there were red walkways on the Dash Nines back then. But yeah, beautiful
It
picture. I think this one,
surprising.
yeah, I'm looking at my notes here. This is dated September 8th of 1996. I don't have a location though, but really nice picture. And of course, we've talked about this in the past too. This is a great picture if you're a product developer because you can see a
Oh
little
yeah.
bit more than what you normally would.
And boy, that cab roof now, the way they've been, there's so much to the antenna arrays keep changing, as you well know. That cab almost looks naked with
Mhm.
just that skate antenna, and it's like, oh, those things are covered with all different angled things now, it seems like, on many locomotives.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. It kind of the equipment kind of helps really, give the era of the locomotive now. Nice head-on shot here. This is beautiful. Nice and clean. This is dated also September 1996. So yeah, it's basically brand new in
Brand
this
new.
picture. Again, showing that Heritage One with the circle cross. I mean, really, really like that paint scheme, and
I
I was
did
really
too,
excited
yeah.
when they came out with it.
And I like what the newer one is black with orange, and I think this was that dark green is Heritage
Yes,
one, and I liked that too. I don't remember now, are these Athearn or Athearn Genesis Dash 9s
these are
in this one?
Athearn Genesis.
These are Genesis, okay, wow.
Yeah, and of course, not only you can get these without sound, you can get them DCC ready with a 21 pin NEM connector, but you can also get them with Tsunami 2s. And um, boy, the first run of these, when I put them on I think it was just a test area that I had for the locomotive on, the sound was amazing. And I mean, it reminded me of Galesburg because when I go to Galesburg in the early days, it was all Dash Nines. Everywhere you went, there were Dash
Mhm.
Nines. And the sound on these is phenomenal. Of course, they do have a dual sugar cube speakers, but then the lighting features too. If you remember, the lighting features aren't limited to just the headlight and the ditch lights, but also the number boards and the ground lights and the walkway lights. And
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
got a lot of lighting features to it. And if you're, somebody that's modeling for this run, anyways, the late '90s into modern day, this would be a great model to add to your roster.
You mentioned that dual sugar cube speaker, and not to get off topic, but the new run of
Mhm.
those regular SW1500s, I put out on my Model Train Resource YouTube channel a box opening, deal on it, and I showed the pictures of the old drive, new drive, and the sound because that's the first time those have had sound. I thought the sound quality was spectacular out of that little dual cube speaker that sits over the one truck, and I've had lots of out of the videos I put up, I've only been doing that channel, a little more than a month, and, that one I've had a lot of questions and asking about it that's had a lot of interest, but boy, the sound on it was spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite an achievement, with what we can do now with sound on these locomotives. I mean, I've said it before, and this goes for all manufacturers. I mean, we live in an awesome time to be a model railroader. There's so much good quality stuff out there, um, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Tony, do you want to? You probably don't want to hear this, but do you want to feel old?
What?
Well, Randall is commenting. He says, Jim, it's 25 years old. It's certainly not new. That being said, the Heritage One scheme has held up rather well over time. Yeah, you got to remember, Randall. I'm not sure, Randall, how old you are, but for Tony and I remember when the first time I saw one of these Heritage Ones being used to the Superfleet colors.
Yeah.
So I don't know. 25 doesn't seem that long ago, I
It
guess.
doesn't seem like it was that many years ago, but yeah, it has been. I mean, BNSF is 96, so my goodness, it's yeah,
Yeah,
there's a whole group of
1995 they formed. So
uh, whole group of
wow.
rail
I mean,
fans that's all they know, yeah.
yeah, that's definitely. Here's a picture that's in from your collection, and it looks like it's acting as helper service here. I don't have any date or anything on it, but it was a cool picture because you got the um, design in the back, and again, from any angle. I mean, with the silver fuel tank and the silver trucks and that nice thinner yellow pinstripe with the green and the orange. I always just thought that looked so neat. Of course, why do they call them heritage? Well, they look a lot like another railroad that formed the Burlington Northern, and
Yeah.
very much like the Great Northern.
This is another good, for the design folks, catching where the numbers placed on the back like that, because that's not something I think I'd immediately these rear shots like this, I think are always a help when folks have those that they can share that sometimes can be a question on things that you don't again, we don't see the back end all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Usually, for pictures like this, we get that cool 3/4 shot. Everybody's focused on. But this is a great picture because again, you know, when this picture was taken, it was brand new, and now, at least in my area, when I go to Galesburg, it's a lot of the premium heritage they call it, which are the black and orange with the power bar BNSF logo. So we're not seeing as many of these heritage ones in my neck of the woods as we used to. So it just goes to show, get the pictures while you can.
Yeah.
Now this is a cool picture, and you were talking about your SW earlier. We've got an SW here. I can't quite make it out which one that is, but that Conrail unit behind it really brings back some memories. And you've got this really nice, clean picture of 987. Um, let's see if I can find a date on this. Looks like this was in Chicago in 1996.
Wow. Wonder if it was maybe being delivered from, I think they were still assembled at Erie, maybe in
Yes,
Pennsylvania. They hadn't gone to Fort Worth for production yet, so it might have been Conrail handing it off. But yeah,
it could be. So in this case, I mean, very, very new, brand new, maybe not even in revenue service yet. Like you said, probably delivered. Now this is a cool shot. You've got a lot of eye candy here to look at. Picture by John Bartley. This one says this is Bozeman Pass,
oh,
Montana,
nice. Wow.
July 23rd, 1998. So it's got some miles under it at this point. This is unit number 1042.
You can still kind of tell the red of the walkways, but if you didn't know, I don't
Right.
know that I would spot that. Like, if you know it, yeah, I can tell, but otherwise, yeah, I don't know that I'd pick that out. And yeah, there's a SD40-2 behind it, and when a Santa Fe's rebuilt, that squared off nose is, I think those were U36s or something. They turned into SF30Cs or something like that. And
Mm,
it's not a Santa Fe anymore there in that picture. It's in lease service, and the freight war bonnet's been kind of changed up a bit. But yeah, that is a neat mix of power.
yeah, that's a lot of new stuff to take in, and you know, just long enough that a lot of that stuff is long gone now. It doesn't take long.
Right.
Another great shot of a Heritage One 1043. This one here is and actually I've rail fanned here before, Shibona, Illinois,
Huh.
November 1996. And if to any locals to that part of Illinois, if I am mispronouncing that, remember I'm from New Hampshire, not Illinois. Is it Shibona? Is that how it's said, Tony?
I don't know that. That's Northern Illinois, I believe, and yeah, it's kinda out of my stomping ground that I was more down
Yeah.
Springfield and south, so I
Okay.
I'm not sure. But boy, there's another pair fresh out of the box. That's
Yeah.
amazing looking.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a pair of them too, which is really cool. And the lighting on that is perfect and everything else. I mean, really, really neat picture. Well, we're moving over to Canadian National now. And this picture here, let's see, this is 2501. It says it's eastbound and Byron, Wisconsin, May 19th,
Hmm,
2000.
wow.
And that looks brand new too. Of course, we are in this run offering the Canadian National versions. And we're going to actually have two different paint schemes. You see I think, refresh my memory, Tony. They called this the North American paint scheme. Isn't that correct?
C
Because of the
correct. Yeah.
Atlas on the side.
Yeah, the kinda
We're
gray
going to be
map.
doing,
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing one. Let's see. I'm trying to remember from my memory which one we're doing, but we're doing three Canadian nationals, and two of which are pretty much as delivered, and then one of these is missing the North American paint on one side per the
Hmm.
prototype. So the
Wow.
guys found a prototype picture of that locomotive without the North American map on one side and with it on the other. So we kind of like to do that kind of stuff with Genesis and offer something a little bit different and something to something to
Those are, I
keep
think those
track
are
of.
interesting how it's a wide nose, and you would assume that they would have had the same as US roads, and it's completely different. The cab nose thing is unique to those, which is an interesting feature.
You know, Isaac has just commented. He said, I was not wise and I didn't get the first run. I won't make that mistake again." And yeah, exactly. Because actually that first run that we did of the Canadian Nationals have a different cab than say the BNSF or Norfolk Southern. And so they sell fast. And so you've got a chance. We're going to offer three different road numbers with this, of course, with all the lighting features and the unique Canadian national details. So if you missed out the first time, here's your chance. 2503 here, you really can see the differences, you know, in the way the cab is. I mean, the window layout is a dead giveaway.
Hmm.
And this one here, this is 2503. This is in Winnipeg in August 22nd of 1997. Originally a picture from Harlan Wilson.
Yep. J. Harlan Wilson. Yeah.
He's been known to have quite a few of his photos in publication.
I hadn't realized it looks like the lip on the front pilot, kind of the anti-climber thing, is a little different on the Canadian ones too.
Yeah, you know, now that you mention it, I'm looking at our PDF too. And by the way, if you want to see what our models look like more in detail, don't forget on our YouTube channel, you can catch me on Train Tuesday. We did our first December special on the Dash 9s. We talk about the Dash 9s and the ones that we're featuring. And then the week after that, we've got one for the GP7s. You can also go to our website at athearn.com, select the new announcements tab, and you can find PDFs of all the different models that we're going to be offering. And yeah, I think you're right. That's one thing that I didn't notice, and that's why I'm not in product development. I let the I let John and Janet do all the hard work.
It's always fun when I get an email like from one of them and they'll say, "I'm looking for the ones that have this." And I'm like, "They did?" And then I start like,
Yeah,
"Oh, well, they did. There's a group that's this or that." So yeah, it is fun how that stuff is spotted. It's like I've looked at those how many times and I didn't realize like half of them were this way and the other half is like that. It's like, oh yeah, they were.
it's amazing because you know I hear a lot of people say that you know modern railroading is very generic and boring. And I guess you could say on the surface it does appear that way, but then when you get into the specifics like we're talking about, and I've had many conversations with John. One conversation was the AC 4400s. For the first run, I think he had to design something like 36 different cabs.
Wow.
And, you know, on the surface, they all look the same,
Right.
but there's subtle differences. And it's mainly because, you know, these railroad companies are special ordering these locomotives to their specific, you know, um, specifications, how they want them set up. And that's something in the past that we didn't really have to do in the modeling world. But now with the internet and more people being aware of those subtle differences, that makes the burden on the product developer that much more um, challenging.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it is
It's
amazing.
double edged that there was a time where you wouldn't have had access to that information, you wouldn't have known. So the model, you might not have nitpicked things, but now you do, but then that helps in making the product too. Is there, back in the day, Irv Athearn couldn't Google F7A Santa Fe and get, thousands of pictures to go by that, and might have been a black and white builder's photo or something. So yeah, it is interesting, the explosion of information.
Yeah, and it is kind of neat, especially now that we've got the merger of CP and Kansas City Southern. Now we're going to see, probably more so you than me, you're going to start seeing more of the stuff from south of the border that we don't normally see. And yeah, it's modern, but there's a really neat array of stuff out there. And I mean, we tend to forget too, just because they're modern doesn't mean that things aren't getting rebuilt, things aren't getting updated, things of that nature. So you can still see a Dash 9, which is pretty much in the industry considered an older
Mm,
locomotive now. But like you were
yeah,
saying earlier, they're going to have, the PTC farms arrays on their cabs and things of that nature. And
for
that
sure.
is what kind of makes it interesting.
Absolutely. Well, I think was it when y'all did the 70 Ace run recently on the UP, the group of like the Rio Grande SP, Northwestern Katy, that group. I can remember, I think it was Janik stating how there were little changes being made here and there from when they first came out to now, which I wouldn't have thought there would have been, but both antennas and some patchwork and other things that were done to paint that it's like, oh, they are different. But who knew?
Yeah. So I think this is our last picture of the Dash Nines. We were really heavy on BNSF and Canadian National, but believe it or not, those are our really popular roads too. This one here, I think, is from 1999. Yeah, May 16th, 1999. It's in Unionville, New York, and um, you got some Conrail in there too, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's a Jim Conroy image.
Yeah, neat group there of looks like 3 old 4-axle Conrail units. So yeah, neat stuff.
I mean, I pretty much cut my teeth rail fanning on Conrail, and I really miss Big Blue. I had a soft spot for Big Blue, so it's kind of neat to see them in these pictures as new, as a class one. Well, moving on, we're also doing some GP7. So if you're not a modern um, model railroader, if you're not really into big six-axle locomotives, and maybe you like prefer your modeling 60s, 70s, maybe even in the 80s, and you like four axles, we are doing some Jeep 7s. But what's cool about this is there's new tooling involved. And that new tooling allowed us to do some models that we have not done in the past. And one of those are these Amtrak units. These are really cool, huh, Tony?
This is a neat group. Yeah, these were maintenance away that Amtrak got from Paducah. They were rebuilt from, like various old Frisco or somebody's power that Paducah that was associated with Illinois Central Gulf, rebuilt some units in a group of these for Amtrak. And I've seen pictures of them in the red and white Frisco paint with Precision National on the side, and then they got repainted into these, I guess, the original pumpkins. You talk about the pumpkins, think of some of the CSX maintenance aways, but this is a really neat, interesting group of something I would not have expected, would be on Athearn's agenda to do. So yeah, when I saw the information that these were coming and started pulling these pictures, it's like, wow, I can't believe they're doing these. This is a neat group of locomotives.
Yeah, this is one that was on the bucket list for quite a while, and we had a lot of folks comment on our Athearn product suggestion email that they wanted to see these. And so some new tooling was developed. It's basically access hatches on the long hood, and that, as well as the CNWs that we announced, those are all new with the all new tooling. And this guy here, this picture is from July 8th, 1978. It's in New Haven, Connecticut.
Hmm.
And 770 is actually one of the ones that we are doing for this run. Now, this is the luckiest locomotive that Amtrak probably had.
You almost hear the one arm bandit doing cha-ching, 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 777. Yeah. And the
Yeah,
coins
and
fly. Yeah.
what I love about this picture is look at behind it.
Yeah. The little Penn Central, the old Pensy caboose back behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is really cool. This picture here from Anthony, this looks like this was taken in May 4th, 1980. It was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Huh.
And definitely that's about the era that Athearn's models are. We're advertising these as late 70s, about 77 or so into the 80s. And if you've got, Amtrak operations, you might want to pick one or two of these up. And Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say that Amtrak even leased some of these to other railroads to kind of use as a lease unit.
I can't remember. I know I've seen pictures in Chicago. I've seen them in the Northeast area, obviously, as well. Like I say, I've seen them switching trains out. Chicago's where I've seen a lot of pictures, but then again, the East. But boy, what a neat, because it's a Jeep 7, but look at all the changes. The footboards have been
Right.
taken off. It's got an upturned coupler cut lever put on it. They put that red emergency light on. The opposite side that we saw in the other picture has got that, the like ox blower housing or air intake hood thing on it, that just a really different looking Jeep 7. And I always find these as really interesting models because, again, there's so many things that deviate from a first generation Jeep, of like the skirting removed above the tanks. And these are always fun to see because they're so modified. And of course, being Genesis, it's all there. So it's fun to see all that added or taken off.
It's like I tell, to somebody that may not know, it's kind of like what we see in the car world. You might see a vintage car, but it's been upgraded with disc brakes and maybe a new power plant and maybe leather seats and things of that nature. And that's kind of what a lot of these GP7s, GP9s, even 18s kind of saw in the 1970s. It was cheaper for railroads to rebuild these and kind of make some retro mods on these locomotives, and that's certainly what Amtrak did. And like you said, those little subtle details, the removal of some of the skirting to make maintenance easier, and the addition of the emergency lights and things of that nature. So it's an older locomotive that came out in the 40s, but in this case, you see them in the 1980s. It's really cool.
It is neat to see, yeah.
Let's see what else we've got for pictures that you sent us. Now, this is a really neat picture, not only because of that former Penn Central caboose. I think it's actually lettered for Conrail now, but we've got some electrics here.
Yeah, I
So
would assume that's does I don't know if I had a location for that, but yeah, Northeast, obviously that's probably a ballast train working on the under the wire there in the Northeast
looks like it.
corridor. Yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth, which I'm going to say is probably New Jersey,
Yes, I think
July
so.
of 1980.
Wow.
And yeah, really cool picture.
I forget
Now we're not.
how long these lasted. These I've seen these Jeeps in a couple of different paint schemes in addition to the orange, and there's a new version of White River's Amtrak by the Numbers that just came out with all new
Oh,
pictures, hardcover, and that would be a good source to go look at. I will have to grab a copy of that and look and see
interesting.
how long they lasted.
I'm going to go back one picture because David Reynolds just commented. He said 777 was at Great Smoky Mountain Railroad in the 1990s. So,
Huh. Wow.
David, you might want to pick up our Genesis one because we're offering 776 and 777. So, there you go. You have a connection there. Moving along, this picture here, this paint must still have some odor to it. It looks like it just came out of the paint shop.
Well, it does. Yeah, it does.
Precision National, and this is in Chicago in 1977, and it's it was another one that the guys picked because it's really cool, and you don't have to model one particular road if you don't
Right.
want to, because a lot of these were leased.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was Illinois Central was involved in Precision. They were down in I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank now. If it was, I think it's Kentucky, Paducah, Kentucky. That's why they're the Paducah rebuilds, and they had rebuilt their E units, their switch engines in the '60s, and started on Jeeps in the late '60s and 1970s. And some of these Precision itself got the paint scheme, and you can kind of see some of the Illinois Central influence there. If you swap the green for orange and the yellow for white,
Mhm.
they kind of adopted that paint scheme. And yeah, these could be all over the place as far as they were lease power that traveled around. I think this is an Amtrak service up in the Chicago area.
Yeah, and again, even for the date, I mean, it just looks brand new. But if for whatever reason the GP7s in this release you didn't see any roads that you wanted to take part of, well, we've offered the Precision National in two different road numbers, 1508 and 4207, each with subtle differences because of where they came from. And you can definitely run these in your with your roster because they were leased.
It's a pretty scheme. I like the mix of that. The green and yellow looks nice. And yeah, look at this one, totally different. We got dynamic brakes, no spark arresters. The light package on the other one had that, the oscillating, the stuck out part headlight that this one doesn't. So yeah, again, they're all Jeeps, but all over the place from where they sourced them, that they were taking them in from all kinds of railroads and rebuilding them.
And we're not doing 4206, but we're doing the one right next to it, which is 4207. I mean, in the stable numbering system, not the one behind it physically in the picture. And yeah, it's kind of neat to me. I kind of reminds me of a Chicago Northwestern scheme, mainly because of the colors, but definitely something if you're modeling the late 70s into the 80s, you can definitely add these to your roster. So there you have it, Kevin Udaley's collection. Of course, Tony, you dive into that deeply, mainly for diesel era, I would assume,
Mhm.
but you've helped us out quite a bit with not only marketing presentation but just documentation for the product developers. So thank you
You
for
know,
sharing this collection with us.
I'll always enjoy because there's, as I say, there's always something exciting when you guys have a project like that, and will be some. Oh, I remember those. Yeah, maybe we have pictures of those, and can use them in Model Railroad News. With the reviews of the models when they come out, and so yeah, it's fun stuff.
Really is. And I mean, every time you think you've seen it all or you know it all about the prototype or the hobby, something comes along and it's like, oh, I never knew that, and that's
Exactly.
what's
Yeah,
fun.
and it is that always adds to the. I'm working on a series for Diesel Era next year where I didn't realize it, but in the late 70s, there's a handful of them. UP and Burlington Northern got SD40-2s that have one extra door underneath the radiator grills because there was some new anti-slip truck stuff coming in for the SD50s, and it was experimented and put on those. And when I read that, wherever I came across it, I'm like, that can't be. And then started looking it up, like, well, there is. So yeah, I've been digging pictures of those up again. And that, an SD40-2, like, no, there's no slightly longer long hood SD40-2. That's silly. And it's like, oh, they're odd, but there were a few. Yeah. So you never
There's
know.
a
There's always.
prototype for everything.
Yes. Yeah, almost literally, yeah.
Well, we're going to segue over. If you have any questions about the Athearn Genesis Dash 9s and the GP7s, feel free to go to our website. Talk to your dealer, whether your dealer is online or you're lucky enough to have a brick and mortar store near you. Talk to your dealer. You have until Friday the 29th to pre order the Dash 9s as well as the GP7s. I'm afraid I'm probably going to order a few of those GP7s and maybe just for nostalgia's sake, a Dash 9 or two in Heritage 1.
I think what I saw in there was the Northwestern group of Jeeps. I like the regular Northwestern paint. I think I
Mm,
shared those when I do a visit with Spring Creek Model Trains, each month with Mike and Jeff Zucker. And that was one of the products we talked about was the Jeep 7 group. And I showed the regular Northwestern paint is kind of that slightly later era look, but you're also doing the bicentennial, the red, white, and blue
yes.
Northwestern Jeep, and those I'd like to have both the regular paint and the bicentennial on those Northwesterns. So that is neat. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the holidays, we haven't done this in a while. We did it, I think, back in 2021. We asked everyone, hey, you know what? Holidays are here. Show us, does your layout celebrate? Do you somehow incorporate model trains into the holidays? And we wanted to do that again this year, and I was delighted that we got a lot of submissions
Hmm.
to the Athearn contest email. Now we could only, just because of time's sake, we could only choose a few, But I thought, this would be the perfect time to go ahead and showcase what our modelers have been up to. And so without further ado, Tony, are you ready to see some holiday pictures?
Indeed, and was that 2 years ago we did that last? Because when I saw
Two
that, I'm like,
years ago.
"Oh, yeah, I remember we did that last year." Now you're saying that was 2 years ago. Oh,
Two
wow.
years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that we'd skipped a year. Alright.
It's hard to believe, but so let's see who's going to start out with their holiday pictures. Well, this is from Bill, and some of these pictures, Tony, have some captions to them. Now, let me see what Bill wrote in. He didn't write in, but it looks like we've got a ski train or something. It kind of reminds me of the Boston and Maine ski trains they had back in the 40s.
Nice Canadian national, the Athearn heavyweight obs, and it looks like he's put in full interior, and yeah, the
Yeah,
skiers coming up to the train. That looks nice, yeah.
so nicely done, Bill. Definitely, yeah, definitely has a nice winter look to it. I like it. So John sent this one in. At first, I thought, well, that's a nice layout. Nice southern locomotive there, southern caboose. But if you look carefully, it looks like he's got a special train there. It looks like those gondolas are filled with packages, maybe
With
for
packages,
the
yeah, when you first put the picture up, I'm like, "Well, there's nothing Christmas about that," and it's like, "Ah, but look at the loads in the gondolas." Yeah. Maybe scrap metal that's had ribbons tied around it.
nicely done, John.
Oh, that's nice.
Alan with his Dash 9. Check this out.
Oh, that's pretty, yeah.
That is really pretty. John writes, on the edge of fading light, British Columbia 4643 breaks the silence before bursting through an accumulated snowdrift. That kind of reminds me of New England.
I
That's
d Yeah, and
that's neat.
I like the it when it says twilighty, it's like, yeah, it is kind of that about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a day this time of year
Hmm.
where it's and look at that trying to butter us up. Look at the car parked at that house. It's a
Oh yeah,
Mustang.
it is. Maybe Ellen knows something we don't. Coming up next was John. It looks like this would be I'll Be Home for Christmas is what it reminds me of. We got an Amtrak P42 there, and looks like they just got some snow, but the Amtrak crew has been hard at work keeping those rails nice and clean.
Nice and
And
clean, yeah.
this one's from John. Nicely done. And it
And
looks like
boy, is
oh
everybody excited about those P40 or P42s that are coming back? I know Janik showed a couple
yeah.
pictures that he had them, in his little area and where he shoots pictures a lot, and boy, that's gotta be one of the most asked for, "When are those coming out? When are those coming out?" That I hear that all the
Mhm.
time from I've had people send me an email saying, "Look at what this is selling for on eBay. When is Athearn gonna get more of those out?" It's like, "There's a run, it's coming, it's coming."
Now the good news is, it looks like some of those, not the complete collection that we announced a couple of years ago, but some of those are shipping right now. So
Cool.
sounds like I'm going to have to see about getting some off to Model Railroad News for review.
They are I remember when you first redid that, and it's a fantastic, fantastic model, but that's a fun winter scene there.
Yeah, I like the Christmas tree all lit up. That's a neat touch. Now this one gets. I got to be honest with you. Kyle gets a few bonus points. And not only has he got Big Blue, but take a careful look and use a collector. I'd be curious to know if you've got that car. Do you see the Horizon Hobbies
The Horizon
Athearn
50-foot
car?
boxcar and, yeah, and the bay window caboose, and I think that center flow to the left of the flat car with the sleigh, that might be there's an Athearn center flow that was done about that time too, and that
That's
looks like
right.
that blue. But, yeah, that's and I like the 40-foot flat car with the sleigh on it, that's very neat, and then
It's
the
a very nice
double
touch.
door boxcars full of packages.
A lot of details there, a lot of neat stuff. Kyle writes, he says, "Here's how I'm putting my epic pair of Genesis Conrail SD70s to use for the holidays. These two are my most detailed duo of Conrail power and normally double head my longest trains, 30 to 40 cars, but I split them up for this contest." So,
Wow.
Kyle, nice job. Thank you for submitting that picture and Yeah, a lot of neat stuff. Actually, that Horizon car that's dated 2004. I've actually got it here behind me.
Ah,
So
isn't that's about the time of Horizons? I think that's around the acquisition that was done as a commemorative. Yeah,
yeah, that's about the time that Horizon purchased Athearn,
yeah,
and that's when Genesis actually, 2004. That's when Genesis was still really new. It had been out for
still
a
do.
few years, but
Yeah.
it was a relatively new to the scene.
I would assume Santa Slay must have had to go to the Juniata shops for something. Maybe it was getting fixed is why, and they were taking it back to the North Pole.
Probably regauging those
Yeah.
slides. Yeah,
Wow, and is that must be the I guess I'm almost saying, is that real? That's amazing. That's
a
a great
beautiful
picture.
shot by Mark
Yeah.
Hills. Yeah,
Beautiful
um,
5771. Yeah.
no caption on this one, but really the photography is. I don't know if I'd want to be the real fan taking that picture. It looks
Hmm.
like it's pretty cold.
Very nice. Kinda has that look
Beautiful.
of yeah, the, Union Pacific set there, the bathtub gons with coal, and then the ABB set for the Rio Grande Zephyr. Very nice. Yeah, that's an amazingly good picture and fantastic looking models.
Yeah, very nice. Here's another one to make you cold. Looks like we got ourselves a work train, not just a regular work train. We've got the new rotary snowplow. That these just came in, well, a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, with the B units?
Yeah,
I'd kind of forgotten about that announcement. Yeah, that is a neat. And is the B unit powered in that? So it will be
the
able
B
to
unit is powered. Yes.
push itself? Wow, neat.
Yeah, and of course the rotary works as well. Now
Mhm.
Robert Anderson submitted this one. He said Southern Railway Athearn FP7 comes out of tunnel number 2 somewhere. No, sorry, that's a different picture. This is Peter sent this in. I thought he had some caption to this, but apparently not. But nicely done. And look carefully there. That caboose looks like it's going to have some guests show up
Yes, yeah.
for dinner, maybe.
Looks like some bison or trying to make it to the station on time. Yeah.
Yeah,
That is a neat scene. There's some deer up there on the hill, and I see some skiers off to the left, but and yeah, I completely forgot about the rotary with the B
that's
unit.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, that
I
is cool.
think you
Yeah.
didn't you do a segment and model, or sorry, HO Collector on that about a year ago, wasn't it?
I don't remember now.
I want to say you did, but
Hmm.
gosh, you do so many articles on some of the older models. It's sometimes
Hmm.
hard for me to remember.
Oh, that's pretty.
This is a cool picture. Now this one does have a caption. I started reading this one accidentally. This is by Robert Anderson Jr. and he says Southern Railway Athearn FP7 comes out of tunnel number 2 somewhere in the Appalachian coal fields in 1957 to bring some holiday cheer, pulling a special OCS Christmas train.
Hmm.
That's neat. So this picture actually has a story to it,
That's neat.
and nicely done. Another frigid looking picture.
Caught the headlight and the signal there really nice too.
Yeah, very nice. Now this has got a cool story to it, and Tony, you'll appreciate this. Ronald submitted his picture about a week ago, and Ronald said this picture dates from 1987, and
Ah.
his son was 7 and a train fan. He currently has a big layout in his basement. All the cars in this picture obviously are Athearn Blue Box,
Mhm.
borrowed from the layout that he chose for his layout. And he wanted to wish all of us a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. But that's a
Wow.
neat picture going back to 1987.
That is neat. That's very cool.
And Walter sent this one in. This is captioned what everybody wants for Christmas, Athearn.
Yes. Yeah, that's perfect. The tree with just lots of Athearn boxes underneath it. How fun is that?
That's neat. That's a neat picture. And yeah. So there you have it. So we had a lot of people send in pictures. We couldn't use them all just because of time constraints, but thank you for submitting those pictures. Thanks for being part of the contest. We made it pretty simple this year. There was only going to be one winner, and that winner would get the 50-foot boxcar that I showed earlier. So what I did was I had the Athearn team um, pick their favorites, and there was one overwhelming winner for this year's, and the winner is
Ah,
Alan Logan with the Dash 9, the DC Rail.
I think that's
So
my pick
Alan,
too, yeah.
congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be my pick too. I really like that picture.
It's a really nicely done picture, and really nice. You know that if you remember correctly, Tony, the first year that we did this, we had a similar picture that won first place. It was a Union Pacific
Oh, with
locomotive
the
bursting through
snow.
the snow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great picture. Yeah.
and this one is definitely nicely done. Alan, if you are watching live, congratulations. Thank you for your submission. And if you haven't already, please email us at the Athearn contest um, email. And that way we can get all your um, mailing information, and we'll be shipping out your brand new Athearn boxcar. And Tony, you've seen this. This is the new packaging that we've come out with for the Athearn line.
It's
And
very sharp looking. Yeah, I like that, and I love the new Genesis, the flip top box. I've got a video out on my model training resource YouTube channel where I show those new 2893s and talk about the differences and the upgrades over the years to that model. And yeah, that the both packaging I think is very striking.
so, Alan, you'll probably get that probably after the holidays. So, probably the beginning of the new year, which can you believe it, Tony? I mean, we're talking what, a little bit over a week, and we're going to be in 2024.
2024. That's hard to believe. This year is just really sped by, it seems like. So yeah.
Just phenomenal. Before you know it, we're going to be talking about the Railroad Hobby Show, the Amherst Show, the Big E, depending on what you call it, the big one, as I call it,
Yes.
in Springfield, Massachusetts. Are you going to go to that this year, Tony?
No, I don't have plans to make that one this year, no. I've been
Uh,
before though, and yeah, that's an all-time great show.
Really is, really is. Well, once again, everybody that submitted their pictures for the 2023 holiday photo contest, thank you. And thank you for participating. Now, stay tuned as we go into 2024. I am working on some more contests, and we're going to have some new stuff for our fans going into 2024. So stay tuned for that. So, with that, Tony, how about a few questions? Are you up for a few
Oh,
questions?
sure. Sure.
Let's go ahead and see what we've got out there. Folks, if you've been watching, if you've got a question for myself or Tony about model railroading or Athearn or one of the publications, feel free to ask your questions now. I can't promise that I'm going to get every single one of those questions, but I will be watching the comments here and seeing what kind of questions we can answer for you today. So a lot of folks are enjoying the pictures. I'm seeing a lot of congratulations for Alan, which definitely well earned. Ronald says, thank you for showing my picture. Ronald, thank you for submitting that.
That's a
We
good picture.
appreciate it. Let's see. Now, before I pick any other questions, if you're wanting, we get this every time, Tony, you know this. It's like, oh, I want you guys to do a 38-2 and CSXYN2. Well, that's really not what we're here for tonight. We do have an email for you, though. It's Athearn-product suggestion at athearn.com. That does go directly to product development, and you won't always get a response, so don't be offended. But we see what you guys are wanting, and we do file that. And next month, there's going to be a lot of happy guys because we have been watching that Athearn product suggestion email. Let's see. Here's one from Jesse. Wants to know if there's any RX 500 news. That's your modern critter.
Yeah.
Your any news on that? Well, I can tell you that John's been working hard on that particular project. I don't have a date for you when we're going to give it the actual announcement, but that is going to happen, and I can't promise you anything, but I'm thinking that we'll probably do a full announcement on it sometime in 2024.
Hmm.
Now, I am going to be joined at the Amherst show with John Stackpole, who is our lead developer. So if you're going to be in the area and you want to get some inside knowledge on how we develop stuff, stop by the booth and talk to John. He's very passionate about his job.
Are you going to have any announcements for Amherst? Or
We're
show
gonna have
anything
we're
new?
gonna
You
have
know?
some things that we might let out there in the public. I don't
Hmm.
know. We'll see. Sometimes the PD guys they get very busy, and then before I know it, they say, "Hey, can we do this?" It's like, well, my boss says it's okay, so why not? And we'll announce it. So I do know, in all seriousness, they are working on some major projects, mainly in the Genesis line. So we'll see what 2024 brings us.
Neat.
Let's see. Our friend Derek says, I can't believe the picture with the Mustang didn't win. I'm
It
bummed.
did
Well, wait a
win.
minute.
It
It
did
did
win.
win.
Derek,
Yeah.
that's the one we picked. The BC
Yeah.
Rail has a white fastback Mustang in the background. So yeah, that
And by the
had
way, I did not choose that picture. I didn't choose any of them. I stayed out. I let the guys in PD and in our art department pick these.
I haven't been over to Derek's got a great YouTube channel. I think he just reviewed the 1500 at Conrail, and I've got to go and
Yes, he
take a look
did.
and see. It's always fun to see somebody else's observations on that. So yeah.
I got a message from one of our super fans, I call him, Sid. Sid, he just commented, I'm back. I didn't know he left us, but Sid messaged me today. He got his tunnel motor. He had been waiting for
Ah,
the Ohio Central tunnel motors, and they finally got to his layout. So
ah,
he got an early Christmas present.
nice. And boy, those are talking about Christmas present, they also have Tsunami 2s in that run that they've
Right.
got, yeah, higher level than we usually see in the regular Athearn run. It's got a great sound system in it.
That is that is something that he was waiting for a lot. He was talking to me. He was talking to John, and so I'm glad that he got those before Christmas because that would make my Christmas anyways. Let's see. Michael's asking EMD SD78CU locomotive with DCC and sound, CPR military. Any updates? Thought they were going out this December. Well, we just announced some a couple of months ago, so those are going to be out for
Yeah.
quite a while. But let me see if I can do some checking here real quick.
Right,
I
didn't I
don't
thought we
know if
looked
I've got any updates for you.
I thought we just looked at those, that they were just announced. Yeah. Weren't
Yeah,
they?
we just announced a run where we had the 5-pack. So
Oh, yeah.
the special, but there's actually a set out there that we announced almost 2 years ago, and
Oh,
you might
okay.
be asking about that. Let me see if there's any updates here. Oh yeah, the Heritage and two of the military units. So current ETA on that, and remember, ETAs are just that. They're just an estimated time. We're looking at about midsummer on those, so you don't have too much longer to wait for those. Let's see. What else do we have here? Here's a question from Willie. He said, will there be any HO Coca-Cola reruns in the future? Well, I can answer that question. Probably not. You've probably heard me talk about licensing in the past. Licensing is where we have to go into a joint agreement, which usually requires a portion of the sale of the model to go to the licensee. In this case, it'd be Coca-Cola. Now, as you know, Coca-Cola is extremely popular, and the licensing fees are quite high, so that's why we haven't done them in a while. And right now, we're just not in a spot that we're going to be doing that anytime soon. Now, does that mean we'll never do any Coca-Cola stuff again in the future? No, it just means that right now we're not going to be doing that. And Tony, here's a bit of trivia for you, and you probably know this. Did you know that it was Coca-Cola that pretty much invented the modern day Santa Claus?
I did know that, yes. And I saw that a handful of years ago. Yeah, the imagery and that look of Santa Claus with the contour bottle is, I think, is it like World War II or before or something like
I
that,
think
that
yeah,
it and brings in kind of the what we all kind of accept as the Santa Claus imagery is Coca-Cola. Yeah.
it's kind of neat how the commercialism worked in that case. It was something that Coca-Cola did, and the next thing you know, that's the way Santa Claus
Everybody
is.
adopts it. Yeah, you don't know.
Let's see. Any other questions you guys have? Oh, here we go. Here's one from Are You a Train Man Too? Is there a tentative date to officially announce the CA11 cabooses? Well, we talked about those at the National Train Show, and I bet Tony, you're looking forward to getting your hands on one of those, and I know Shane's going to want one of those N scale versions.
Oh, yeah. And that's a first for N-scale, isn't it? It's
It
the
is.
yeah,
First time it's Athearn Genesis, so it's Athearn Genesis and HO, and it's also Athearn Genesis and N scale.
sweet.
John actually showed me some renderings that he did in CAD, and for N scale, I was blown away.
Wow.
So I can't wait to share some of that information with you, Tony, as well as our fans. We are going to be doing a actual announcement on those cabooses. It looks like around February, so keep your eyes open for that. If you see us at the Amherst show, we'll have already done the February announcements, and I'm pretty sure that's where the CA11s are going to be announced. So if you've been waiting for those, we'll have more information at the show or whenever we do announce them. Joe wants to know who is representing Athearn this year at Amherst. I'd like to meet you, Jim. Joe, thank you very much. Not only would you like to meet me, but I'm going to be accompanied by Mark Williams. And Tony, you've met Mark. He's our
Oh, for
category
sure. Yeah.
manager. He pretty much oversees the daily runnings of Athearn. Mark is pretty much responsible for all of Athearn. We all get our marching orders from Mark. Mark is also a modeler, primarily HO. And also joining me will be John Stackpole. He's our lead developer at Athearn. He has not only been a modeler, I swear, since birth, but his dad owns a really well-known hobby shop in the
Hobby shop.
Wisconsin area. And then also Robert Kenderdine, who joined us last year. This past spring he joined us. He's going to be there as well. He's one of our product developers and researchers. So we're going to have a full house at the Athearn booth. So yeah, please stop on by. I will give you an Easter egg. If you are a modeler of New England short lines, you're definitely going to want to be at the Athearn booth because I'm going to have something special for New England short line modelers. So keep that in mind.
Wow.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I think Tony already knows because I think I sent you some information yesterday.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think I have seen that. Yeah. I can't say anything though.
No, not yet. Let's see. I saw another good question. Here's one from Zach Malcolm. Have you thought about doing beverage or any other trucks for beer and alcohol brands like Bud Light, Budweiser, and Miller Lite and HO? Certainly not without a possibility. You can't see it because of my camera angle, but I actually have the new, I think it was the Hams. Oh no, I actually put that one away. The Hams box cars are in stock now, both in HO and N scale. And of course, that's a well-known beer company. What was their slogan, Tony? From the land of
Land of
sky blue
sky
waters?
blue waters, and they had the little
Yeah,
cartoon bear, and
yeah,
I think
that's right.
and remember they would sell you could get a little steel barrel-shaped can of Hams. Their traditional can is that blue and
That's
white
right.
with gold, but I can remember at times seeing they almost look like a little hand grenade, that it was a little barrel-shaped thing. So, classic
So we have
Hams.
done those. It's a possibility. Again, anytime we have something like that, it does require licensing, but that's a possibility. So if that's something that you'd like to see, please by all means use our Athearn product suggestion email, and there may be a possibility of that. Here's a good one from Jonathan. Any early CSX in the future for the 1980s era, like the Queso and Canadian subdivisions? We are actually, I don't know what you're seeing in your world, but we are seeing a lot of folks that are really picking up the late 70s, early 80s, and into the 90s model railroading. And CSX is definitely one that gets a lot of attention.
And again, yeah, that whole BN, Conrail, CSX, that all of those at one time didn't seem to have a blip on the radar, and that all is gaining a lot, as well as the prototypes from that era seem to be gaining more attention.
Let's see, I'm going back to, you know, we're going to have quite a few shows that I'm hoping to go to in 2024. How about yourself, Tony? Are you going to make it to Rocky Mountain or the National Show?
The one that's in is at the Rocky Mountain is that Denver show in like March or
Hmm.
April, and
Yes.
I've got a handful of friends that are going to that and have been asked about trying to get out to that one. And I always think about it, and I never know what the weather's going to be like. It could still be winter at that time, or it could be early spring and great. So I've never made it out to that show, but yeah, I would like to.
So it's a great show. It's growing. It's getting bigger and bigger every year, and this will be my third year at the Rocky Mountain Train Show. So looking forward to it. And of course, the Nationals is going to be in Long Beach this year. So that's where Athearn was for many
Right. That's
years.
old stomping
Um,
grounds. Yeah.
that's right. So we're kind of going back to our old stomping grounds, and it'll be good to see Janik and his crew and John. We're all gonna meet up there because a lot of our developers are still on the West Coast. So myself and Mark and Robert are predominantly the Midwest and East Coast, but looking forward to that. And then I haven't heard anything about Train Fest. Have you?
I know we didn't have it this year, but my understanding is there will be one in 24, but I don't have that official, but that's the last I heard.
Here's one that I get at just about every train show, and saying building kits has gotten popular again. Is there any chance that Athearn will bring back blue box kits? At this time, I'm going to say no, but I also used to say, and you'll see that this month I had to eat some humble pie. In the past, the business decision on undecorated units was, they don't sell. But we kept getting such a demand for undecorated units, and you'll notice that the GP7s were offering them in undecorated. There's three different versions, and they've been very popular on. So I can only think that a lot of people are going to be buying those undecorated kits. And then the SW1500s that just came out, they're available in two different versions and
Two,
undecorated
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So who knows? I mean, currently there's a few major manufacturers that make kits that are similar to Blue Box, albeit much more advanced in their printing and painting than what the old Blue Box was. So who knows? I could be wrong. Right now, we don't really have any intentions of doing Blue Box kits, but you never know. There may come a opportunity in the future where we might do that again. Who knows? What do you think, Tony?
It would I know there'd be a lot of people excited about it, and it certainly has quite a history, so, yeah, I don't know. I know we've talked that several times over the years, just in kicking topics around of, "Hey, what about this?" Or, "What if," so I don't know.
Mr. Reynolds wants to know if we're going to be at any of the shows in Atlanta next month. We're not slated to, but I am getting some feedback on those shows, and who knows if I can justify sending myself at least. Maybe in the future we'll check one of those shows out. They seem to be growing in popularity, which is nice because it seems to me, I don't know if you see this too, Tony, that a lot of the shows are very East Coast, West Coast, or Upper Midwest.
Yeah, I mean, not as much across that. Yeah, when he mentioned that Atlanta, it's like, oh, I don't. How are you missing going to Cocoa Beach in January for that RPM? I mean,
You
that would
know,
be. I
that
think
would be nice.
that in January is easily justifiable in anyone's budget, I would think. But
Yeah. If I don't go, I'm going to see about maybe sending someone else to that show. But I've always wanted to go to that one. I mean, obviously the St. Louis RPM is one of my favorites, but Cocoa Beach is I mean, they get a pretty good sized turnout from what I
Yeah,
remember.
I think it's been around for years. Yeah.
Ramsey wants to know, is there an ETA on the Versacoils? Now, we announced the Versacoils a while ago. Um, we currently, and I'm just going by memory, so keep in mind this is a rough estimate of a time of arrival. We're probably looking at about late summer, early fall of 2024. So we got a little bit of time yet on those.
I remember seeing somebody asking about the Surfliners, the progress on those,
Mm,
and ask
sure. The
where that was
Surfliners
at.
are, this was a project that got hurt because of that chip shortage.
Hmm,
So remember we had that chip shortage, I think what, 2021 going into 2022,
right.
and there was so much work and development into those models, and they were so intense. And then when it got to the point where the coders were being designed and such, we kind of had a dry spell.
Hmm,
And so now everybody is, trying to take care of the backlog. And so it was kind of like we were stuck in the development stages of that when we didn't have the decoders to test them, and now we're into that.
hmm.
I do know they are trying really hard to get those in sometime about mid to late summer of 2024, but
Wow.
hopefully we'll have some more news for you. Let's see. Got time for maybe one or two more questions, and then I'm going to let you guys get um, back to your modeling endeavors. One more Tuesday live. Well, yeah, we have Train Tuesday live, and actually, it's a good uh, thing to remember here. In the past, I have been saying that after the first of 2024, all Train Tuesdays would be pre-recorded. And we got a lot of comments about that. A lot of folks said, "Oh no, I really like to see it live." So we did some analytics. I did some looking, and really the slowest period of views is in the summer, which makes sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Train Tuesday live throughout the winter and fall months, but in the summer we'll take a break and have a pre-recorded broadcast. So yes, Train Tuesday is going to stay live going into probably until about May, where we'll take a break. They'll be pre-recorded, and then starting again in October, they'll go back to live again. And that's really when I think most of us are really busy on our layouts. October to through about May. Let's see. One more question, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to it. Zach, that's a good question, but that is more of a product suggestion email question. And let's see. There's a lot of guys requesting stuff. We'll end with this question here from Wayne. Any thoughts about doing the STP40s and the Genesis or Ready to Roll line? Well, the Ready to Roll line, of course, is gone. It's been replaced with Athearn. But there has been some talk about bringing that at least into a Genesis class. Now, keep in mind, whenever we have something that goes from one class and jumps up to another, especially a Genesis class, there's usually a lot of work involved. It's not just putting a few more details on a locomotive or a freight car. Sometimes it requires a lot of ground up research, a lot of ground up mold work and engineering and things of that nature. So the biggest struggle that we probably have in Athearn is the time to put those projects into their time slots for our guys to work on them. So while we've talked about it, there's no immediate plans for those to become Genesis right away, but they are on the radar. It's just like everybody, Tony, we need more time.
Oh, yeah, isn't it? Would be a nice piece because there's you do the Genesis SDP 45, and what the SDP 40s were Great Northern, and I think Mexican NDM
Think
might have had some. I'm trying to think if that was it, but yeah, it would be a nice companion piece.
definitely. Well, folks, thanks for joining us here live tonight for the special edition of the Athearn Extra. We really appreciate it. I want to thank you, Tony, for coming on board and helping me host this great show. And thank you again for those pictures of the prototype Dash 9s and GP7s. That really, I think that helps us order more locomotives for our layout.
It's fun stuff to see. It's a great collection of slides that Kevin U. Daly has, so it's always fun to go through that. So yeah. And you can
Well,
find info on my stuff at shop.whiteriverproductions.com for the magazines and everything. I've meant to talk about the new calendar is out, The World of
ooh,
Railroading. So
well,
12
that
whole
looks nice.
months with stuff from all the publications. You can get that at shop.whiteriverproductions.com. And I've been a month into my Model Train Resource YouTube channel. I think I looked today before we went on. I'm at 495 subscribers. So I'm almost crossed 500 for my
All right.
unboxing and those things. So if you get a chance, go over to YouTube and look up Model Train Resource, and you'll see me unboxing. I've done the SW1500s, those 2893 covered hoppers, the tunnel motors. So fun stuff.
And the neat thing about the YouTube channel is you typically have your unboxing videos before they go to press, right?
Right. This is usually as I'm doing the photography for the magazine or doing research work or pulling old models out to compare the others. So it's kind of a little bit of behind the scenes of this is what I'm using or factoring into what'll be in print. And it's there's just a couple of minutes. The whole idea is just a fast look at here's what's in the box and here's some of the highlights that I caught as I was doing photography on them.
Yeah. So if you want to see that, be sure to check out that YouTube channel. Um, let's get you some more subscribers. Let's get some guys over there. Check it out. If you want to see the behind baseball, as Ray would say, if you want to see some of that kind of stuff, it's really neat. They're nice short videos showing new product that's coming to market right about now, and it's a great way to see all the new stuff that's coming out. So definitely check that channel out and subscribe. And likewise, if you like what you're seeing here tonight, or maybe you're catching it later on our YouTube channel, feel free to like and subscribe. And I always say, hit that notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this drops into the channel. With that, Tony, I think we're going to wrap this up. And probably the next time I see you, it'll be 2024.
I think so. Boy, we had a great year this year. We've done several shows and always fun stuff and great products. So looking for high greens in 2024.
There you go. Tony, have a happy and safe holiday season. Are you traveling at all this year?
Not at this point. No, have some work related things. So I'm hanging up here in Missouri. So Bandit and I are just going to be calm and quiet. And my dad turns 80 in early January. So I'm going to be over in
Oh,
Illinois
wow.
for that. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, have a happy and safe holiday to all of our fans out there. Have a happy and safe holiday. Here's hoping that you get some model train goodness under your tree this year. And like always, be happy, be healthy, be kind to others, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. Good night. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.